Hello, guys. It's time here for another podcast. Well, I know what you're all thinking. Okay, why aren't we seeing another Let's Play? Well, I'm having technical issues.
Technical difficulties suck!
Yes.
That's basically the thing. Technical difficulties suck. We're all trying to deal with it. Just
Yep.
chill out, guys. That's all I gotta say.
Yep. You guys know me. I'm DGK, and as you can tell, Ian's with me.
Hello, everybody. It's like the only time I'm ever around now is in like other videos.
I know that pain, good sir.
Yeah, well, you just roll with it.
Now today we're gonna talk about something that isn't recent for once.
I know, it's amazing.
And it's basically one of my favorite series of all time, known as Fire Emblem.
So Fire Emblem is a fun mistress. They're either very kind to you, or they're very willing to just throw you under the worst way possible.
Indeed.
Yes.
And note, we're not going to talk about the Japan-only games, since I doubt Ian knows about them.
To be very fair, that is actually pretty accurate. Because actually, no, I'm aware of them, but I just don't know enough that I could be able to competently talk about them.
Indeed. So why not start ourselves? Well, it's with the first well-known one. Well, it got a remake in the States, but you know what I mean. Also known as Mars Story.
Ah, yes, Mad Story. The one that started this. I believe wasn't it his story that kind of like jump-started the entire like Fire Emblem series or something like that? Ah, there you go.
In fact, he is pretty much had the most games made about him from what I read about.
Indeed. Well, I mean, basically it was kind of like the whole Fallen Prince kind of like story of redemption, blah 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 blah. Eventually, you must save the world from like from unknown evil that may or may not be a dragon or a demon.
Well, you're right about the dragon part.
Yeah, it's like I've just mentioned every plot from like every every Fire Emblem game. Sorry, I don't know why I'm trying to say Fire Emblem there. Final Fantasy.
Yep. In fact, he's one of the few characters that actually got a sequel story.
That's actually very true. Well, there's several others that have had their sequel stories, and there's one case that got the weird case of like having their story in a sequel of a series that is a prequel timeline. That one's actually pretty confusing if you try to think around that one. I'm sure I think you know which one I'm referring to.
Yep. Anyway, in the sequel story, one of Marth's good friends, Hardin, also known as Turban Man for those who watch some people's Let's Plays, has gone mad with power. It's actually kind of tragic if the more you think about it.
Well, it kind of goes into the whole thing of like, you know, power corrupts, and then like absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's kind of like falling under that somewhat story trope, I suppose. Well, not really trope, but sort of theme. This makes sense, I guess. I suppose.
Yeah, but what you don't know about, good sir, is the fact that what caused him to get corrupt is that he got possessed by some sort of item that he got from the antagonist from the last game.
You know, that also reminds me of a very similar plot from one of the later series. I wonder why.
Yeah, it's known as the Hardened archetype for a reason.
Very true, very true. It's fun. I love the archetypes of Fire Emblem because they're all pretty much like somewhat stereotypes of what you'd imagine of like those times, and just like somewhat anime the hell out of them somehow.
Yeah.
It's all in good faith.
Yep. But then we have Roy or a Lywood story.
Yep. This is the one I was mentioning, where Roy Story came first, then the next series came out, which was the prequel of that story.
Yeah.
Wrapping your head around that nonsense. And fun fact, Elwood, Lynn, and Hector story, they're from the sword. I think it's the Blazing Sword, it's called, or Reckon no Ken.
Yep.
That was actually the first Fire Emblem game that was actually transported to us in America under the single name of Fire Emblem.
Yep.
And my God, if anyone ever played it like I did when it first came out, that was probably the most brutalest game you've ever experienced in your life. If you played like Game Boy Advance games, like I did when I was a kid.
Exactly. In fact, when I was a kid, I thought Lywood was Roy and Hector was Marth.
I thought that too, and I was like, why is his name Ellenwood? I thought he was Roy. But then I found out, I was like, oh no, he's just the dad.
Yep.
And you know what, I'll just say this now about Roy, and I know a friend of mine in college like agrees with me on this, but as a character he's okay, but as a unit, I think he's possibly like the absolute worst Lord character ever in like a Fire Emblem game. Oh my god, he is so terrible. Whereas Elwood, he's like inverse of that. He's either your like absolute best unit as a Lord, or he's like possibly one of the worst as a Lord.
Yep, it's just like Marcus in the same game. He can be your best unit, or he can be your absolute worst.
Actually, with Marcus, it's more along the lines of not like the best or worst. It's like we're going to give you this like extremely overpowered unit, and he will take all of the XP away if you use him.
He's the Jagged archetype.
Yeah, basically he either makes the game easier for you, like early on, but he will make it very difficult for you in the long run.
Yes.
Oh my god, I remember my first time I did that. I regretted that ever since, which is why usually what I do, I just take all of his weapons out and just use them as a glorified tank to rescue people.
Yes. It's
hysterical how it works.
As for me, he becomes the tank, but gets overshot by Oswin.
Oh, Osmond. I love that guy. He is a boss. He is a goddamn boss.
Agreed.
Although I still think probably one of my favorite characters has to be like one of the people you meet like in Elwood and Hector stories, Mr. Guy, actually.
Yeah.
I like Guy. He was so good. Best storage master ever. Until you got Carl, and then that guy was just, oh my god, so beautiful. But I think still my all-time favorite unit in that entire game, hands down, had to be the Nomad Wrath.
Oh, yes.
God, yes. I loved him. He was just beautiful. Just so good. Nomad Trooper just destroys the world.
If you give him the chance.
Oh, I gave him all the chance. He never disappointed. Never disappointed at all.
As for her Roy story, here's the cliff notes. Byrne has gotten mad with power.
Byrne's evil, surprise.
And of course, there's thanks to Zephiel, who is...
It's like, basically that's the cliff notes. It's like, Byrne is evil, that one child you saved is now evil.
Yes.
There's also there's an evil, corrupt Manicat somewhere.
Yeah.
That's basically all you need to know about, like, the Sword of Seals. I forget what the Japanese version title of that is, but oh well.
Or as Awakening calls it, hit Blinding Blade.
That's such a dumb name. I liked it when it was the Sword of Seals because it sounded somewhat magical.
Exactly.
It sounded like mystical, and then you call it the Binding Sword. You're like, that's so dumb.
Yep. But then we got a new story: Erika and Ephraim.
Man, I won't lie. I have a very strange love-hate relationship with this game. I have a very love-hate relationship with it. It's so bad. It's so weird.
As for me, I have the love-hate relationship with Reckon no Ken, but I absolutely love this game.
Yeah. I guess I'll explain like my only reason why I have a love and hate relationship. I like a lot of the people in this game. But at the same time, I think that time it's like, wait a minute, I recognize some of these people from like this other Fire Emblem game I was like tormenting myself over. Like it's just like I kept drawing way too many comparisons, and I think that's what kind of ended up ruining my entertainment for it. Then I ended up like rushing through the game, so like I got to the final chapter, trying to deal with Fortinbras.
Oh yes.
Ooh, that fight so much. Oh my god, that was the worst.
Yeah, in fact, the Fire Emblem Wiki calls it the easiest Fire Emblem game in existence so far.
I could kind of see that, but I could easily argue that Awakening can be easier in some respects.
True.
that can be like probably one of the easier. That's probably the easier game. But like the one problem I always encountered with Sacred Stones more was the fact that I just ran out of money constantly, so I was like broke just getting new weapons.
Yep, that bag val is pretty much the party version of Ulysses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the only other here's basically the story of that. That Gardo has gone mad with power. Or mostly because as its prince got possessed by some demon.
You want me to try at least?
Sure.
Alright. So you have a king who goes mad because his son gets possessed by a demon, and there's like these magical stones that every kingdom has like one that is supposed to keep this ultimate ancient evil demon that is possessed like one mad king's son who their kingdom actually controls when the stones. So they decide, in my madness, I'm going to collect all of these stones and bring this ultimate evil into the world. And monsters and demons started appearing throughout the world as well.
Yep, in fact, you can probably tell that the king is possessed because he hires 3 people that totally don't look evil.
Of course.
Including the guy that was basically the bane, character-wise, in my existence. Walter.
I think it was less that they were hired more than they were actually part of the army, actually. Part of their forces, I think.
Nah, they were hired.
They were? Huh.
Because Walter was exiled.
Walter. God, that man. I love the class he is from, but my god, he is pretty irritating as a person.
Yes. Which is why, in my most recent part of Sacred Stones, I had no hesitations killing him.
Oh, I remember making fun. I remember being in that episode. That was so much fun.
Yes.
Giving him the most hamish like voice ever. Like, hey, I can.
Ah, yes. But then we got even another story. But this one actually has a sequel. The Ike and Micaiah story.
Yep, Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. Man, I will say that I won't lie, when I first played Path of Radiance, when it first came out, I was really excited. I was like, oh my god, things are in 3D. It's gonna be pretty. And then I was just like, wait, what the hell is this? What's with the story? And then I came and I stopped playing it, and I came back to Path of Radiance, and then I realized, wait a minute. This is probably the most irritating Fire Emblem I've played. And I think it was mostly just for like the amount of different missions they threw at you. Like, I swear to God, I had to play like I remember there was one map in Blazing Sword that I didn't like, in which it's like you have to defend a person for some amount of turns while you're in like a fog of war like environment because everything's dark.
Yeah.
That same mission like reared its ugly head in Path of Radiance and somehow made it absolutely worse. There was so
the Oliver chapter.
Although I eventually ended up just cheesing that game with like 4 swordmasters and an assassin. It was so incredible, the amount of crits that went everywhere.
Yeah, as for me, I had no pain of that because, well, let's just say my disc got so scratched that I couldn't access that chapter.
Oh yeah, and there's also like a very terrible mission with a bridge. I think that was when I eventually like stopped playing the first time.
Yeah, in fact, that mission rears its ugly head again in Radiant Dawn.
Oh, it does! Does it still have like the incredibly like somehow incredible foresight of like pit drops that are like everywhere?
Yep.
Oh my god. That's such a weird... I think those pitfalls made me laugh the first time, and then it was just like, oh my god, they're thinking of like everywhere to put a pitfall, and it was like got irritating quick.
Yeah, but you wanna know what makes it worse? Some of the enemies have light runes.
Yeah. Yeah, that does happen.
Plus you have... But to make things a little easier, they gave you Tabarn to help you with.
Tabarn was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, but there's just one problem with that. If he fights the boss, he's basically dead.
Yeah, that's why you gotta be pretty careful in those scenarios.
Yeah.
It's even more worse if you're actually concerned in keeping everyone alive.
All I know about Path of Radiant's story is that the Mad King Ashnard, pretty much, just his conquest craze.
I could probably fill in the plot for Path of Radiance better for you since I
Sure.
don't play that.
Go ahead, since I don't know that much about Path of Radiance, to be honest.
As he had mentioned, there is a Mad King who rides a dragon, who is actually the former king of a tribe of Lazgus. I forget their actual terminology, but yes, he's mad and he's crazy. He wants to just control the entire world. You take the role of a simple mercenary named Zyke, who is a newcomer of a mercenary group known as, whose somewhat father and like the leader of the mercenary group is killed by a Black Knight, and you're kind of on a somewhat road of revenge of some sort while keeping control of the actual mercenary group, and eventually go into the said conflict with said Mad King and the man who murdered your father, who is under his rule, the infamous Black Knight.
Hijinks to follow.
Basically, yes. That's the most you need to know.
As for Radiant Dawn, I know a little bit more about. But what makes it a little complicated is that it's separated into 4 parts. The first part is basically your team known as the Dawn Brigade. Title drop insert.
Yep.
Or to basically he tries to find the so-called Ashnard's son.
Yeah. I totally forget which one was Ashnar's son in the end, but I think it was like a pretty funny. There's like a funny twist involving like the air.
I'll get to that part when we get to the 4th part.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to take care of Bangneon, who apparently he is controlling Dayan, and with an iron fist, basically.
Yep.
And guess who survives? Black Knight!
Yep. That grand duel that you had to the fight to the death, ruined.
Exactly.
He survived with a simple scratch on his armor.
Actually, his armor and his artwork does have scratches. He hasn't lost its blessing, but that's another campaign.
Well, I mean, there's like the big, large scratch that you perform on him. That's apparently what the climax of your duel is, a giant scar on his armor.
Yeah. For part 2, you're Queen Alencia, who basically is trying to control her army from some rebellion.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, there's racism in this game.
Yes.
There is mild racism in this game.
Yes.
I'll allow you to explain that if you'd like.
Well, as far as I know, if your Lagoos calling someone human, that's basically the equivalent of blackface.
Yeah, basically. There's kind of a thing in which like Lagoos and the humans, or Biors are called. They kind of have like a thing of like racism going on where Lagoos kind of don't like humans anymore because, you know, we kind of tried to kill all of them, and we regularly have weapons that are meant to kill them, and we can't typically call them like dirty animals and whatnot. And in turn, they just don't like us because we're a bunch of pricks.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, so there's racism. So that's racism.
Yeah. In part 3, you return with Ike. Ike, and thanks to some brouhaha and contracts, that you're fighting against the Dawn Brigade. And that's basically the cliff notes of that.
Yeah, basically.
Part 4 is where her shit really hits the fan.
Yeah.
And the goddesses awaken. And you basically have to team them up. Everyone you possibly either fought against or fought with into 3 separate armies.
Silly, and we should all combine, like, unite under one banner for a common goal.
Yes. Yes, and so we enter the tower, take care of the evil senators.
Oh yes.
Political commentary, everyone.
Yeah. Actually, you know what's the one thing I noticed with like these two games?
Yeah.
Like basically it kind of somewhat mirrors Star Wars in a very sweet, like surreal way.
Oh really?
And also like Ashnard's Kingdom, if you look like under his reign, like if his army acts like are basically equivalency of like Nazis. They are like super supreme evil, basically.
Yeah.
Like I saw that, I was just stunned. Like, wow, you guys are just unredeemable assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we also in that same story we take care of the Black Knight once and for all. And we found out that one of the senators, that we thought was good, but also known as Sephirim, turns out to be the orchestrator of all this.
Yep, you have yourselves a nice little fetal archetype there.
Yep. Or Garneth, if it's more widely known as, but...
Yeah, well, I think a fetal was like a sub-archetype of that one.
Yes, it is. So then finally you fight off the goddess. Yes. That just happened.
Yeah, but then again, if you played most Fire Emblem, you're so used to fighting, like, mythical demons and dragons that a goddess is just like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It's like nothing to shrug off.
Then we have the final story in the Fire Emblem series so far. Chrome's story.
Fire Emblem Awakening, which I will say I like. I consider it to be probably one of my new favorites of the Fire Emblem series.
Same here, man.
Because we got probably one of the best villains ever that has like the biggest plot twist of all.
Yes. In fact, there's not one main enemy you have to face against, but 3.
Technically 4, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So here's the rundown. You're Chrom, a king, the prince of the kingdom of Ulysses.
Actually, no. You actually are not Chrom this time. You're not necessarily. You're working with him. You are actually your own self.
Oh,
Yourself is actually in there. You are a nameless person who has no memory of his self, who has no idea who he or she is.
Yeah.
But you're by Chrom and his shepherds, and together you pretty much are working together in like shepherds and do missionary stuff as always. Also, Chrom may or not be a prince of, like said, Elysian, like kingdom.
Yeah. The first time you go through, you have to take care of a familiar title. The Mad King Grangal.
Yep. King of the very twisted and like crazy land of Plagia. I love Plagia so much. I love them. They're all so mad. It's crazy.
Yeah. In fact,
but as you go towards Mr. Gangrel, you learn that there's an even sinister evil afoot, as strange reanimated corpses known only as the Risen arrive.
Yes.
And kind of impede your progress as you go.
But luckily you have a swordsman who came from that said place. Is under the name of Marth, who helps you.
Strangely referred to as Marth.
Yes.
To which there is a plot twist within that.
Yeah, the more you keep going, you learn more about him.
Like for instance, that Marth is not even a girl, is not even dude, but a girl. And that his name isn't even Marth, but her name is Lucina.
Yes.
As a bigger plot twist that will blow your mind, she is the time traveling daughter of Chrom from the future. A very shitty future at that.
Yes. There's a future that pretty much makes the Nazi era look like Care Bears.
Indeed. And so now in terms of this, you're like, we have to change this. We have to prevent this like crazy ass like evil future from happening. Yeah. When unknowingly you're kind of just sort of following the same footsteps of it.
Yes.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy if I've ever seen it.
Yeah. But as you move on, and you fight another dictator known as Walhart.
A man from the far realms of Valm who wants to pretty much conquer the world to expand the Valmese empire. Sounds familiar. So.
And what's even twisted about that is that he pretty much thinks he's doing a good thing with this.
And it turns out later on that it was! After you kill him.
Yes. Oh crap, we accidentally killed him.
We killed the one guy who was trying to solve everything. And then we finally get to the central enemy of the game, the...
Valadar.
Rather... Valadar, the head of the Gremil cult, the very sinister cult that controls everything of Plagia.
Yes, if you think all those twists are hurt enough, here's one more.
Yeah, I mean, there's even more twists. Valadar is your own dad.
Yes.
Your dad is an evil cult member. And not only that, but there is strangely another person who resembles exactly like you.
Yes. Unless you change your class, but that's besides the point.
Well, it just resembles like your appearance, but not like your class. But there's another weird thing, and it gets even crazier because you start learning more of like the evil god that like the Gremil like worship up and down, known as Grima.
Oh yes.
And learn more that the other you is actually the same you, but of a future, also from the future, who accepted the power to become Grima because you have Grima's blood in you.
Yeah.
Her father is evil. Weird.
Yeah. But then we get to go to Nagav's power, and we learn how to kill him. By basically him killing himself.
Yeah, you have to be the one to kill Grima, and so the two you can die because time paradox.
Yeah. Though she does say there's a slim chance.
But it heavily implied that you are not going to survive this encounter.
Unless...
And then you finally fight Grima, and on top of Grima, while fighting Grima,
Yes.
on Grima. It's pretty weird. Actually, I think that's the one thing with the story. As much as I love the story, it's pretty convoluted. The moment they like try bringing time travel into it, it becomes like kind of this congealed and convoluted mess almost.
Yes. There's one fault I have to say about it.
It does get pretty damn complicated, and like your head gets so confused. Your head will pretty much start hurting if you try to stitch together the many timelines that is in like Awakening, because there's like the real timeline that Lucina came from, and some of the other kids of the future, because there's other kids from the future who came here,
that
are from the Tellus thing, and then there's like alternate futures that like other kids came from, and then like even more like alternate futures that other people came from, including the alternate future where like evil Grima you came from, and then like alternate future where you came from, in which you came from the past.
Yes.
Your head pretty much spin and like be like annoyed by that.
And you know what's even worse? There's 4 out of the 5 bonus characters you get actually somehow survived.
A lot of them, yeah. All of them were people you killed before.
Yeah, and what's even stranger is that they're oddly willing to fight with you.
Somehow, yes, because their situations got even shittier than when you last met them. Like Gangrel!
Yeah, he pretty much kills Emo after all that.
Yeah, he gets like strapped into like a bandit group, and he's just like, oh my god, my life sucks. Like, I remember I was a king once.
Yes.
I was respected and feared.
Even Crom points out how emo he gets.
I know, it's pretty pitiful, actually. You also get to, like, recruit other people like Wellhart, a brother of a character that you meet who was serving under Wellhart, and...
Yeah, but that
as
one we
well
actually
as,
got an
like,
explanation for.
That one does, too, yeah. And eventually you end up hooking up with Valadar's, like, right-hand woman, Alversa.
Aversa, but yeah.
I'm not even sure how that one works, really, so...
Yeah. Well, we spent enough time with that. Let's talk about the heroes. There's a Fire Emblem.
I thought we've been doing that all the time.
Well, to me, the heroes can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
Some like
There's
Marth, some like Marth and Lucina, where you can actually sympathize with.
Because they have their own little, like, goals. And then there's just some in which you're just like Like Roy.
Yeah, or some you just cry bullshit every single time you see her. Micaiah.
Yeah. And then there's like the some that are like kind of in the background that you just like they're so like incredibly badass that you're just like, oh my god, I like this guy. Like Jafar, for instance.
Yeah.
That guy is like really cool and probably cool even for like being a tool and killer.
Yep. But other than that, well, we pretty much mentioned all the ones we have talked about in the previous stories.
Indeed, I think we pretty much have talked about most of the heroes while we were discussing the games.
Yes.
That's the weird part.
So not much left to talk about with them.
Pretty much.
So next we'll go on to the villains.
The best part.
Now these guys you can either sympathize with.
You could like them because of how like interesting their plans are, or then you just get the some that you just cannot stand because they're just unredeemable like bastards entirely.
Yes. Like Sword of Seal's equivalent of Walter, Narshin.
Yeah, I didn't care for Narshin at all. He's kind of a brat.
Yeah.
And then there's like other main villains like from Blazing Sword, Nurgle.
Oh yes.
That dude, pretty hard. That guy is very hardcore, and I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
He's pretty sympathetic actually, if you think about it.
Not to mention that when I first went through more of Reckon no Ken, and I was like, oh God, I hate you for all the right reasons.
Yeah, you hate him for the right reasons for how evil he is, but then when you start realizing, oh wait, this is why he's doing all this, oh God, I feel horrible now.
Yes.
And it ends up coming out more as like a mercy killing for that poor bastard.
Yeah.
I like Lionel almost early on for that reason.
Yeah. In fact, that's basically the basis of the Harden archetype. Basically,
Yeah.
you put them out of their misery.
It's pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there are others who are like not really evil, but they're kind of just.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, circumstances have led them to like put you on opposite sides of the board and spectrum.
Yep, like
Much-
like Lloyd and Linus.
Oh, the Black Blaze. Yep. Oh my God, I always feel so sad trying to fight. I feel sad fighting them all the time because of that.
Yeah.
Because they're objectively good people. Like you could tell, like you could get along with them easily. But it's the fact that you're both on like opposing factions is what's forcing you to fight.
Yeah, in fact with Lloyd and Linus's case, they almost destroyed you. Except the field comes by and kills them.
Yeah. That does happen because the field's kind of a bastard that way.
Yep.
And then a dragon killed him, and then a dragon exploded all over him.
Yep.
Still that game denied me that chance to beat him. Ah.
Yep. But what's a Fire Emblem playthrough without weapons?
Well, without weapons, then you have no combat at all, because everyone would just be like standing there going, rolling over themselves with like fists.
Yeah. Or a bitch slap fight.
I would love to see people just slapping each other like sissies.
Yes.
Honestly funny. Although I think Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn are the only ones that actually address the thing of like people with no weapons, because they actually do attempt to punch people.
Yeah, in Radiant Dawn, you can actually have Lagoose units untransformed punch each other.
Yeah, I have noticed that, and I think they're like those are like the only two games that has ever done that in all of Fire Emblem. Because I know Awakening would never do that. I don't think. Well, I've never tried to fight anyone without a weapon because I'm not that dumb.
Same here. Though my favorite weapons out of them all has to be the legendary weapons or the brave weapons.
Ooh. I have to go with the killer weapons. Killer weapons are just too good.
Agreed.
I'm a sucker for crits. Critical hits are just too beautiful when you
Yeah.
can just see a person's health just suddenly just like go down the drain.
Yes. Once you see them doing that animation, you know you're screwed.
Yep. And basically that's why I always when it comes to it and I have the chance to, I just stockpile on killer weapons everywhere. Every like weapon variety. And I just go on a rampage of crits. It's beautiful.
Yeah, for those who don't know, legendary weapons can span to the highest ranked weapons, to personal weapons, to even
And you have like some stat increases as well, so they're usually better for like later on. It's usually a fun time because they're usually given to you like the very end.
yeah, heck with the Hachiclair and Grodvius's case, they can even restore health.
Which is pretty darn convenient.
Yeah. Which I get Bleach flashback. I don't mean later Bleach. I mean
And
like
I
the
guess-
whole Spirit World invasion thing where that one guy pretty much took out healing cream from his weapon. I just pictured that whenever I see a unit using one of those weapons.
I guess I should ask this since we're on like the topic of weapons. What's your favorite category out of the 4 like categories of weapons?
Me, swords, hands down.
I thought so. I will say swords is like my second favorite. It like goes off and off, but I will say I love bows. I just love being able to fight things at range and just take advantage of that.
Oh yes.
And I abuse that maliciously. I will attack you at a range if I have to.
Woot. Anyway.
I think that's the reason why I like Magic so much in that game. Because you have the option of going at range and you can still attack at close range.
That is so true. Good. That is true.
So good.
Anyways, time for our favorite things and other topics we're on.
Indeed.
Like, when it comes to story-wise, even though it's convoluted, I have to side with Awakening.
I have to say, I will agree there, even though it is like a convoluted mess at the end, but with like basically a plot very similar to both Back to the Future and like the Terminator, I do like Awakening story.
Oh yes.
Because it has very good storytelling elements to it, and it keeps you very engaged with its plot, and the many twists and turns, usually, sometimes you'll predict them, but other times they just throw you like completely like, oh god, what? Like the whole Valador being like your father, I kind of saw coming, but when it finally came out, I was like, whoa, that actually came out heavier than I thought.
Yeah.
And it's done in such a suspenseful way that it's like done right.
Yeah, in fact, thanks to some sites, I had some bits of Awakening spoiled to me. So when I first played Awakening and saw a cutscene of Crom fighting Valadar, or back in the beginning of Awakening,
yep.
I think I pretty much made the joke, Daddy's not pleased.
And Daddy's gonna have to punish you. But I think I will say that other than that, I love Rekken no Ken. I love Rekken no Ken no matter what. Even though like that game was like, and it's mostly because that was the first Fire Emblem game I ever played, and that's when I understood the suffering that is Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
But it may just because I'm just like a weird glutton for punishment, but I adore that game. It holds a very special place in my heart.
Yeah, the GBA games hold a special heart to me, especially when it comes to its sprite work.
That sprite work was pretty cute.
Yeah, that's where her critical hits really showed off.
And they all looked, and they were pretty much all very fancy. You could tell, like,
yes.
Oh my god.
Like for Nomadic Troopers, first I'll just jump off my horse.
Get it
there. Here it's like
sword crits for Nomad Troopers are always so good.
Yes.
I'm gonna jump off my horse. My horse is gonna conveniently jump to the side. I will slash you with my horse. And as my horse jumps away, I'm gonna spin around on my horse.
Yes.
So good.
Or even Sword Masters for that matter.
Sword Masters, I think, were the reason I fell in love with crits, but just how cool their thing was.
Yes. We're gonna split off into 4 different illusions, and each illusion's gonna cut you.
It was 5 actually, because I remember doing like a variation of like recreation of that animation. I think it is like 5 after images.
True. But other than that, my favorite class is of course the Sword Master, but mostly because of how awesome they were. And looked. Especially Shadow Dragon. And yes, Shadow Dragon was my first Fire Emblem game.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. Whatever. Because until then, my knowledge of Fire Emblem was near zero, and all I knew was from Marth. So when I first saw Shadow Dragon, I was like, oh, cool. I wonder how his game is like.
It's this person that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, and thank you, Nintendo, for remaking that for the States, but screw you for leaving the sequel from the States.
Well, we can't have it. We can't have everything, no?
True.
Hey, if anything, I'm just glad that they even decided to bring like Fire Emblem to North America. Even though the reason behind that was because everyone who ever played like Super Smash Bros. Melee got so overhyped because of Martha and like Roy. We wanted to know about the games from them.
Oh, yes.
Pretty happy that we did get a chance to be introduced to that series because of that game and
Yes.
learn of like Roy's father, who was a better player than he is.
Yeah.
I will say that hands down, Roy has to be like the absolute worst Lord character, which is
Yeah. Even when he promotes, the only changes you notice is when he holds his own signature weapon, the Sword of Seals.
yeah. Where is his dad? When he promoted,
He got a
got
horse. Hector.
Your dad is
Yes.
Dad got a horse, and then when it came to a signet weapon, gave him a bigger sword,
Yeah.
and could use lances. He became like he basically became like a paladin. It was kind of cool.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting since in Roy's game, him Lywood appears as a bonus character, and he is a paladin in that game.
Yeah, and basically Hector shows up in that game as well as a like general, which is funny because if you look at like his class, he kind of becomes one in a way.
Yeah. Not to mention he gets a huge ass axe.
Well, that goes without saying. A big ass axe that grows even bigger somehow.
Yes. And Lynn, well, pretty much got the
He
fan
just becomes a
service.
ninja. He just becomes a ninja.
Yeah. Or pretty much becomes like the awakening, the awakening version. Wait, no. The Rekino Ken version of an awakening assassin.
No, I could see that actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
They both wield swords and bows.
Or it was Curse for Days.
Yes.
Oh my god. I loved her animations as like the Blade Lord.
Yes.
Going it's like flash step all over the place.
Ah, yeah.
No, it's so beautiful. I think she was definitely the first Lord I did promote, like out of the three of them, and I just enjoyed it. Enjoyed every second of it.
Oh, I bet. That's,
Like I said, I love my crits. I love my very fast characters, even though they're all like fractal beyond belief. Pays off so much more because of those crits.
yeah. Though I would prefer brave weapons for more chances to hit, or skills to activate, but to
Yeah.
each their own.
Yeah, to each their own. We all have like different playstyles in the end. Although I will say one thing for sure I always do in like Rekino Ken, I abuse Canis to no end.
Oh, same here, dude.
And Luna is just God. It is God.
Oh, yes. Yes, and when he becomes a druid, oh man, the druid class is the another class I love.
That, like I said, just give him Luna. Give him all of the Luna.
Oh,
Oh my god, you are set for life. You are set.
yes. Unless you're playing Secret Stones where her Luna got nerfed.
You have no idea how depressed I was when I found out Luna was not as like hardcore as it was like in the other game. I was like, no.
Yes. Though Luna does have a bit of a return in a way. An awakening in the form of Ruin.
I do, in which I pretty much abused Ruin in that game.
Oh, yes. It's basically like the soul kata you can forge.
Yeah, it's like I can basically. Here's the thing, with that like that, it's Luna, so I can ignore basically all my magic is put into the attack into that, and it has like a high crit chance. It's like Luna on steroids.
Exactly. I mean, 50 crit. How can you go wrong?
I've even gotten into where I've gotten like 70 crit on Ruin.
Damn.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying that Luna's base crit is 50.
Yep. It was so good. I think like the most Luna I ever got with like in Rekino Ken with Cass was like 20, 25 maybe at the most.
Wow.
But you know what? Even so, it was worth it.
Oh, yes.
As almost nothing survived Luna. Nothing could survive Luna.
For those who think, yeah, if you think you can kid yourselves, those with waste, you're only kidding yourselves. Because Luna, my god.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Wow, we're about the end of this below podcast. Any last words?
Luna is very beautiful, and you should love that spell. Luna is love, and Luna is life.
Yes. Or as Eric would probably say if he was here, Luna for life!
That too, I suppose.
Almost like the Fire Emblem equivalent of Yveltal for life.
You know, hey, El
Oh, yes.
Grima! So good.
As for my
You
final
know, words
words, because of my technical difficulties, there will be no Let's Plays for a while. But podcasts will sure to come.
Indeed.
In fact, the next one I plan to do is basically a retrospect of the Smash Brothers series.
Ooh, that'd be that. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So until then we're gonna say goodbye.
Take care, everybody.